Hello, welcome to RC Video Reviews. In today's video, we're going to cover 10 tools that I use in the RC hobby and that I source from Amazon. I'll have affiliate links for all of these tools in the description, so if you don't mind using those, that'd be great. The channel gets a little bit of a kickback and it doesn't cost you anything extra. All right, let's get started. If you're involved in RC modeling, you need a pin vise. There are so many different applications for this, it's hard to count, but we constantly need to be able to drill holes in a very precise location that don't require something as powerful as a full-on power tool. Pin vises are great for that application, but here's the secret. Make sure you get one that's got metal collets. I've used the plastic collets before, and they end up, they work initially, but they end up being just very challenging to use. The metal collets, when they get a bite on these metal drill bits, they lock on and they don't let go. And a lot of these pin vises include two sets of collets. So you've got one collet stored in the front and then another one stored here in the back. And the front and back of the collets have different hole sizes, so you can use different size bits. Make sure you grab yourself a full metal pin vise. It'll really save you a lot of time and aggravation over the long run in the hobby. A rotary tool accessory set is just really nice to have because it keeps all the different things that you might want to use for a rotary tool in one place. I found this kit on Amazon, and this has got about 349 pieces, and it's got grinding tools, polishing tools, sanding tools, cutoff tools, polishing greases, drill bits, all kinds of things, engravers. There are polishing pads over here, grinding stones on this side, and then in the bottom there's a little drawer with all kinds of cutoff wheels and sanding discs. What I like about this is it keeps everything in one neat place. I do want to point out the plastic on this is not super strong, so it's not something you take out on, say, a job site, but on the hobby bench, it shouldn't be any problem. It's got a nice positive latch and a handle to carry it around. Just very convenient to keep all your rotary tool accessories in one spot. If you're in the hobby long enough, you're going to need to solder something, and eventually you're going to need some extra hands to help out. What I like about this set of helping hands is the base. The base is very heavy, and that means it stays in place when you're trying to solder. You can also use these extra arms to reinforce and keep the arm you're using to hold your part from moving around. The gator clips are adjustable. You simply release the jam nut, spin the gator clip where you need it, and then tighten the jam nut back down. So very flexible option, and the base plate really makes all the difference in this one because it's heavy. And when you're trying to solder something, you get everything the way you want it, and you go to touch it and the thing moves, it can be really annoying. So I like this set of helping hands because this base plate is very heavy and it keeps your work in one spot. The Hakko FX-888D. I look back in my Amazon history and found out that I bought this back in January of 2016. So I've had this for about 6.5 years and I use it all the time. It's got an amazingly good temperature range from 120 degrees all the way up to 899. It comes up to temperature very quickly and it holds its temperature to within about 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit. It's got a nice heavy base for your iron, so when you put your iron in the holder, you don't worry about it flopping around on your desk. There's a spot up front for a brush to clean your tip, and if you want, you can put a little sponge in there too. I gave up on the sponge a long time ago. I just use the brush. I'll tell you guys one thing. If this Hakko unit quit on me tomorrow, I'd buy another one just like that. Wouldn't even think about it. This is definitely a must-have tool. If you do any level of soldering, get yourself a nice soldering iron like this Hakko FX-888D. While we're on the subject of soldering irons, you may as well get a variety pack of soldering tips. These come in very handy when you change the type of work that you're doing. Sometimes you might be doing some heavy gauge wire work. In that case, you'll need something that can transfer a lot of heat like this one. Sometimes you might be working on a PCB and you just need a little bit of heat like you get with this tip. In any event, these tips are made for the Hakko 888D, and all you have to do to change them is unscrew the terminal right here on the bottom. The sleeve comes off, the bit comes off the ceramic tip, the new bit goes on, and then you simply put the sleeve back on and screw it on. Very simple change out procedure and completely worth it to have a variety of soldering tips for whatever application you happen to be working on. I'm amazed how many times I go to the field and see guys using tools that are coming from a regular toolbox that they might use to hang a picture on the wall or fix their car. If you're in the hobby, get yourself a set of nut drivers and hex drivers that are designed to fit the fasteners that we use in the hobby. These tools are great because they've got shafts that are designed to get into places that are hard to reach, which we run into on building models all the time. And like I said before, they use sizes that are common to fasteners that we use in the hobby. A lot of times these hex drivers claim to have titanium tips. I'm not sure how much I believe that, but I do believe they use hardened steel because they last for quite a long time and they tend not to round out. When they do start to round out, you'll know that. You can either cut the tip off or get another set. The Wowstick 1F Plus is an electric screwdriver. It's not a high torque device, so don't go in expecting it to be a high torque driver. It's just not what it is. But what it is good at doing is taking up all those threads that wear your wrist out when you're building models and you have a long thread count that you got to go through. You simply press that button and the electric screwdriver just makes short work of them. It's got a USB charging port on the back for the internal batteries. The bits are magnetized and they just drop into the holder up front. This particular Wowstick comes with 64 bits. Now they ship the bits in a plastic tube that I found to be very fiddly. I didn't like it at all. So I went to Thingiverse and I found this 3D print that holds all the bits, including the magnetizer and demagnetizer, which is also a handy little feature if you need to magnetize your bit to hold onto a screw for a tight spot. I use the Wowstick 1F Plus for all kinds of assemblies in the hobby. The main thing to understand is it's not a high torque device, but if you've got a lot of screws to move around, this is the tool to do it. Oh, and it's got a handy little light up front to illuminate your workspace. If you go out and get all these tools, you need somewhere to put them, right? I like this organizer because it does a great job holding the nut drivers and hex drivers we just got through talking about. Also have slots up front for tweezers and screwdrivers or whatever other tools you want to put in there. And there are slots up front for small plier type devices. I've got some flush cut side cutters and a ball link removal tool in there. And then there's one other spot that's perfect for a Wowstick. So when I get ready to build a model, I put this organizer on the bench with me, and that keeps most of the tools that I need for the build nearby and decluttered and out of the way. This wire stripper is fairly new to me, but let me tell you why I like it. On the left-hand side, there's a bit that comes down and clamps the wire, and then on the right-hand side, as you continue to squeeze, there's a blade that comes down and cuts the sheathing, and then the device separates the sheathing from the wire itself. I'll show you how it works by dropping in this 24 gauge wire. The bit on the left clamps down on the wire, and the bit on the right cuts through the sheathing and separates it from the wire. And there you go, you're left with a nice clean cut and all your wires intact. This device also has a backstop. You can adjust it to where you need it to make sure that every time you strip a wire, you get a consistent length of bare wire showing. There's also a wire cutter down here below the pivot point. It's a guillotine style. It works okay. You just put your wire in there and cut it, and it gives you a nice clean cut. There's also some crimp capabilities. They say they've got red, blue, and yellow for sheathed crimp connectors or insulated crimp connectors. But when you close the device, they look like they're all the same distance to me. I don't really see any difference between red, blue, and yellow, so that's not an accurate crimper. I wouldn't rely on that if you're using different color-coded insulators. And it's also got crimpers for non-insulated terminals as well. There's also an adjustment knob that allows you to adjust the tension of the clamping side of the tool. Eventually, you're going to need some desoldering wick and probably a desoldering pump. Once you solder something that you need to take apart, it can be really annoying getting old solder out of the way without these tools. The way the pump works, you press this plunger down, and then you get your solder into a molten state, and then you drop the pump right on top of the solder, and you press that button, and it sucks the molten solder off your workpiece. Another way to remove unwanted solder is with soldering wick. The way this works is you coat the wick with flux, you get your solder into a molten state, you drop the wick down on top, and then you hit the top of the wick with your soldering iron, and the wick pulls the solder into the wick. And then you remove it, and your solder is removed, freeing up the two pieces that you're trying to separate. I can tell you if you're in the hobby long enough, you'll eventually want to desolder something. There's some visual evidence for you right there. And these tools are very useful in helping you separate pieces that are soldered together. Well, that wraps up my video on 10 RC tools that I get from Amazon. I hope you like the content, and if you do, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. And if you decide you need any of these tools, I'd appreciate it if you use my affiliate link. That gives the channel a little bit of a kickback, and it doesn't cost you anything extra. That's all I've got for today. Take it easy. Hey, if you like the work I do here on RC Video Reviews, please consider joining me on Patreon. For about the price of a cup of coffee, you can help me keep making videos just like this one. If you'd like to help out, there's a link in the description and on your screen.